Hey YouTube. Okay, so this is my long-awaited, as in I've been waiting a long time to do it, breastfeeding recap video from breastfeeding my son Deacon. Never in a million years would I thought it'd have been so amazing. We had the most incredible journey that I couldn't even have dreamed it up. And I'll share with you guys a little bit about that journey if you've been following me for a long time. And you know quite a bit about it, but here is just like a basic recap. So I initially always planned on breastfeeding. It was just kind of, I don't even know why I planned on it, because I didn't even think twice about formula in any way. I just felt like I was going to breastfeed, and that's all there is to it. About 3 months before he was born, I purchased my pump, and it was a godsend. I'm so grateful that I did purchase it, because it really it made a lot of cool things happen. So let's see here. He was born on a Tuesday, May 26, 2009. And my milk came in that Friday. Right away, he was a great nurser. We did have some problems with latch at about 2 weeks, but the Friday that my milk came in was the first time I pumped. I swear, I was like filled up to my collarbones. I was so engorged. And I pumped, and it felt amazing to relieve some of that pressure. But that's kind of when pumping took off for me. I was always afraid that I would not make enough milk, because you always hear people saying, I didn't make enough, I didn't make enough, I didn't make enough, or I went back to work and I didn't have enough, or whatever it may be. So that was definitely something that from the start I was determined to not have a problem with. So that's when I started pumping. I had the Medela pump-in style, the Metro bag one, and it was awesome. So that was when I first started pumping. At 2 weeks old, I started developing like some issues with latch, and it was becoming really painful, and it was like literally bite my fist when he latched on. So at that point in time, I started going to a breastfeeding support group at our local hospital with lactation consultants with a girlfriend of mine, and who I will talk about again at the end of this video, but her and I went together, and we both sought help. She was coming off of the nipple shield. Her son was 2 months old at the time, and I was just struggling with the latch. So I would highly recommend, if you're having any problems whatsoever, to seek help. It is worth it in every way possible, every way imaginable. Let's see here. At 1 month old, I have a cute little picture to put in. Him nursing at 1 month old, and it was the first picture ever taken of me nursing. That was actually the day before he turned 1 month old. The following day, the day that he did turn 1 month old, my husband gave him his first bottle, and you can see here, that was him getting his first bottle. And it was very bittersweet. I really struggled with it. I cried. I was happy that he took it, because I had to return back to work. So it was very difficult for me to see him able to get my milk from another source. It was really, I struggled with it. But he took it well, and ironically enough, that was the first night he ever had colic. So I don't know. It wasn't related. It ended up being a dairy intolerance. That was the first night we struggled with colic, so it's kind of a bittersweet memory there, and I'd be lying if I said that I'd be lying if I said that I am looking forward to giving my son, who I'm pregnant with now, a bottle. So, and just for my own keepsake, I am 28.5 weeks pregnant right now. Alright, so let's see here. After that first bottle, we waited like a couple days and gave him another bottle, and just periodically gave him a bottle here and there just to get him used to it, so that when I did go back to work, it wasn't going to be like, oh my gosh, you know, he can't eat. So we worked on that, and again, we waited until he's about 1 month old. It worked out great. We never had any problems with nipple confusion or anything along those lines, so that was really good. We got lucky there. Let's see here. At about the time that I went back to work, my freezer, because I'd been pumping the whole time, and I'd started kind of on a pumping schedule where I was pumping like in the mornings. For sure, I had to pump in the mornings. It was pump before showering. It was just, pump was like my priority, and my supply had already gotten way high. So I started looking into donation options, and there's quite a few out there, quite a few different routes you can take, but I found Mother's Milk Bank, and there is not one anywhere near me, so I had to go to one. It's actually in another state, and contact them, and they were able to send me all the paperwork, and I was able to go through all the testing, long distance, and I started donating to them. And my camera died, sorry, but here are a few pictures from my first couple of donations to Mother's Milk Bank. Sure if those were the first or not, but those are a few pictures of milk that I sent away to Mother's Milk Bank, which is, it was really exciting. It was really cool. They sent me the cooler. I packed it according to the way, you know, they recommend packing it, and then mailed it back, left it on my doorstep, and got a call a couple days later, or a day later actually, and telling me that they got it and everything was good. So it was really neat. Let's see here. He started, and this might have been funky because I think I had dates on the Mother's Milk Bank coolers, but he started back at daycare on July 13th, so he was only 7 weeks old. This is a whole nother video, and I've done it in the past, but it was really hard. It was the hardest thing by far that I've ever had to do in my life, so it was difficult, but at the same time I found a daycare that was very, very accepting of breastfeeding and supportive of breastfeeding. In fact, there was a nursing room that connected both the infant room and the like 9-month-old and to 1.5-ish, I think it's about that age range, to that room. So it was really nice to have accessibility to that room. I would go and see him on my lunch break every single day for 2 years and visit him and nurse him. If he didn't need a nurse, then I would hang out with him and I would pump, and it was an awesome experience. As far as pumping at work went, I worked outside of the office about 3/4 of the day, and it was a challenge to figure out how to pump and store it and everything else without actually having a place to pump. So I developed a way to pump while I drove, and I figured out how to store it in a cooler in my car to keep it safe, and how to, you know, pack it so that I was able to keep it in my car, and just, I mean, you name it. It was insane. So I finally mastered that, and that made the whole experience quite a bit easier. Alright, so this is where the incredible part of our story starts. The fact that I had already gotten, let's see, it was May, June, July, August, September, October, so like early November. So about 5 months later, Sawyer was born, and if you're not familiar with Sawyer, it's Candace's son, Candace and Brett's son. Give Brett some credit. They adopted him at birth, and I'm happy to say that this milk here was in the delivery room when Sawyer was born. I met Candace through a friend who met her on Craigslist, and I met Candace on Facebook, and then through YouTube. It was insane. So it was quite a twisted little web, and I did a video on this too, but it just sounds so absurd. But I'd sent that milk to them, and I asked her, you know, I said, if you're interested in more, I'd be more than happy to continue pumping for you guys and to donate the milk to you guys, because right now, at that point in time, I had just been sending it to Mother's Milk Bank. So I made quite a few large contributions to Mother's Milk Bank before Sawyer was born. And then at that point, I started pumping for Sawyer, and here is the first milk that I ever pumped for him. So it was pretty special. I sent that to Candace, and I said, this is for you guys, and it was really exciting to actually have a purpose for all of the extra milk that I was making. And at that point in time, I was making about 30 extra ounces a day, which I know is just absurd, and again, I never would have imagined, but I was determined not to have supply issues. And really in turn it created a different kind of supply issue. I made way too much. So I was pumping 5 times a day, every single day, in addition to nursing, and it was what I did. I would pump first thing when I woke up in the morning after I nursed him, and then I would pump again at about 10 a.m., about 1-ish, and then at about 4, and then I'd pump again after I nursed him before bed at night. Yeah. Did I say that right? I'd pump him, I'd nurse him, I would pump him. I'd nurse him, and then I'd pump, and then I'd go to bed, and then it would repeat. So I was doing a lot of pumping and a lot of dishes, and it was really quite tiring after a little while. So to ship milk, and Candace and I live about a half a country apart, and to ship the milk to one another, it was actually cheaper to fly. So we were able to make some pretty awesome vacations out of the milk, and it was amazing. Here's a couple pictures from some of our get-togethers. Again, if you've been following me for a while now, you've been familiar with our story and all of our trips and shipping the milk and packing it and all the coolers and the flights and the funny comments we've gotten from the TSA workers and you name it. We've gotten it all, and we have shipped literally thousands and thousands of ounces of milk across the country, which is so crazy. It's insane to think about. It's absolutely insane. But I donated, it's about 11 months worth of breast milk to Sawyer. So Sawyer never once in his entire life had to have a drop of formula, and it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. It gives me the chills, literally. I have the chills just thinking about it because it's such a special bond. And when I think back to the first year of my son's life, I think of Sawyer too, because he was such a big part of it. So I love, love, love and adore that family, and through them I've met more people, and the friendships and the family that I've developed is insane, absolutely insane. So it's a pretty neat thing. On Sawyer's first birthday party, I flew down to see Candace and surprised her. And it was the coolest, it was one of the coolest days ever because she had no idea it was coming. A few days after that, we spent the week together, and a few days after that, I pumped. For the last time, I borrowed Megan's manual pump, and I pumped for Sawyer and fed his birthday. So it was so special and so meaningful because that was his last bottle of breast milk and it was mine, and just the coolest thing ever. So it started in the delivery room with him and ended on his first birthday party. So that, I think, is incredible and justifies the title of this video alone. So let's see here. At about 13 months-ish old, I started to wean myself from the pump. I honestly was exhausted from pumping. I was just toast. I was done. Oh, I was so done with it. I was tired of the dishes. I was tired of the time. I spent a ridiculous amount of time on my pump. Okay, so I'm going on my 15th month of breastfeeding my son. And in that time, I pumped usually about 5 times a day. Actually, every day it was 5 times a day. A few days were 4, and then some days were like 6 or 7. So 5 5 times a day for 400 days, which is crazy. And each time I pumped, it was about, hold on, I'm gonna ditch, 15 minutes. So sometimes, actually 15 minutes was the low end, 20 minutes is a little bit more normal just because I would wait for a final letdown. But just given these numbers, I'm going to keep everything scaled down. So 15 minutes, 2,000 times. That's 30,000 minutes that I spent pumping. 30,000 minutes! Like, that's crazy. But minutes we kind of throw around is nothing. You know, I'll be there in just a minute or something like that. So minutes are kind of obviously a smaller way to judge time. When you break that down into hours, though, it's 500 hours. Still did not give me quite the wow factor. I mean, 500 hours that's a long time, but when you think about it as like work hours, you know, that's like a lot. That is 21 days. So 3 weeks I spent pumping. 3 weeks straight. That doesn't include, and that's just like straight hooked up to the pump, milk's flowing, pump time. So 3 weeks straight of pumping. I was done. So I also, in that time, started to develop, I got mastitis, which was the most painful experience of my entire life. I also suffered from clogged ducts throughout my breastfeeding experience, and just, you know, the normal problems and the normal issues and just basic little things that really aren't a big deal from nursing. But at about 13-ish, I want to say 13 months old, that is when I stopped pumping and just went to exclusively nursing him. I was not done nursing, he was not done nursing, and he stopped taking a bottle at about 10 months old. So, roll back, sorry. But at 10 months old, we were actually in Texas, and he didn't have a bottle for a whole week. So, I figured what a great time to just not give him any more bottles. So that was the last time that he had a bottle, was at 10 months. And from there I just pumped, or I just nursed him. So he did really, really good just nursing, and we had no problems. He nursed 3 times a day. In the morning when we woke up, really, truly, honestly, from like 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. But again, it was in the morning before he woke up. At lunchtime, if I was with him on the weekends, I would nurse him then. If he was with my husband for a few days during the week, I would meet and have lunch with them, and I would nurse him then. And if he was at school, I would go to his school and I would nurse him on my lunch break. So I continued to nurse him then, and then before we went to bed at night. So those are the times that I nursed him, and it was just, it was awesome. It was such a special time. And I honestly have to say, nursing him at his school is one of my most favorite things ever, because during that time, there was nothing to think about. I was at his school with him. It was an hour that we had together alone. Dishes weren't in the sink waiting to get done. I mean, it was just, we just had that special time, and it was awesome. So that definitely made him going to daycare much easier. A few months before he turned 2, I decided to cut out the lunchtime nursing, just because it was exhausting, and I was pregnant and I just wanted to nap on my lunch break, as selfish as that sounds. And I just wanted some some chill time, because I was working full-time mom. It was really tiring. So I just kind of played around with the idea of me not going, and he actually became the best sleeper in his class. At lunchtime, he'd finish lunch, he'd go to his they have like little cots, and I watched him for about a month. I would go and peer through the window just in case he needed me, and I would watch him. He'd lay down, and literally within seconds he'd be passed out. So that was how we kind of weaned off of our lunchtime nursings, and it worked out really well. As far as the evening nursings go, you know, I would nurse him instead of letting him fall asleep nursing. I would just kind of, I would nurse him, and then we would just, you know, lay there and like maybe watch a little bit of TV or just something to wind down instead of falling asleep nursing. Because again, it was exhausting. Same thing with early morning hours. He was up, I was up, my husband was up. It was no longer working. And we did co-sleep at about 2 months old, right when I went back to work. So at about 7 weeks, we began co-sleeping, because waking up to nurse him multiple times a night was absolutely tiring with being, you know, back to work full time. So that was just kind of the way we did it for a really long time. And he is still co-sleeping with us today. He is 26 months old. Yeah, 26 months and like almost 26 and a half months old. And he is still co-sleeping with us today, and we love it. We wouldn't change it for the world, and he has not skipped a beat with nursing. He just doesn't even, it doesn't even faze him. The last time he nursed, the last time he asked to nurse was July 10th. And the day before, it actually been about 2 weeks since he had last tried nursing, and he honestly, I think it was either my milk changed or my milk dried up. Something happened there, and it was no longer, I don't know, it just wasn't even, he would nurse like every other day and then just kind of not, and it honestly just like phased out. And I feel like I should have taken better notes of it all, but it was just such a natural thing that I didn't even, true weaning didn't even dawn on me. And he nursed one last time, and it was extraordinarily painful. And then when he went to nurse again, which was on July 10th, I was, let me see here, I'll tell you how pregnant I was at that time, 28, 27, 26. I was about 25 and a half weeks pregnant, and he couldn't even latch on. So I think it's safe to say that we are officially done. And I mean, we'll see what happens when the new baby comes. However, we are done with nursing, because again, he couldn't even remember how to latch on. It was the craziest thing that I'd ever seen. So he was 25 and a half months old at that time, and he was fine with it. He was absolutely fine with it. And to come full circle, the friend that I was talking about in the beginning of this video, her son, she now has a, oh, I want to say, he's about 3.5, he's about 4 months old now, and he had been nursing the day before on July 9th, and he saw the baby nursing and asked for mommy's milks, which is so crazy because he always called nursing night-night. So he doesn't even call it that anymore, and he doesn't associate the word night-night with nursing anymore, and it's just kind of, it was absolutely perfect as far as the weaning goes. Anyhow though, that is our entire journey. So again, thank you for following me on this journey, because it's been a long one, and I've done a gazillion breastfeeding videos throughout the last 2 years. So if you need any pointers or anything like that, I probably did a video on it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions for me or anything else, let me know and ask them below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.